his duty to speak like that. First of all, we don't live in parallel universe. We live in the same country. The country is facing paralysis, literally an economic collapse. You have a volatile exchange rate. It's difficult to plan because you don't know what the dollar will be tomorrow. We are an import-oriented country, and prices keep on going up every day. And the indicators such as the inflation rate have demonstrated the volatility in the exchange rate that makes our people really fail to plan for the businesses and for our people to suffer the high prices every day. The cost of living crisis has never dissipated from 2022. It keeps on getting worse. The price of mealie meal, price of cooking oil, price of electricity. We have an economy that is literally collapsing. The solutions that are being provided are not solutions at all. They make the matters worse. Let me refer to some of the issues that Max referred to. The prospects on the Copper Belt. He says Mupani is open, KCM is open, and what's happening in Northwestern Province. We have a totally different view. For example, we think that Mupani should not have been given away. We think that the CMI should have run that mine. That's a brand new mine. It just attracted investment of over $4.5 billion between 2014 and 2020. 3 brand new shafts were sunk. A smelter was built. It was a golden opportunity for our country, owning that mine 100% after Glencore left, that we should have mined and kept all the returns and proceeds to our country by capacitating the CMIH. We are not happy, you are aware, with the so-called sale, because we don't think it's even a sale, because even government itself is saying there was no sale at all. Yet you have a new investor who has accumulated shares of 51% and is running the mine. No money has been paid to the Treasury, to Control 99. No money has been paid to the CCMIH. Yet,
Mark seems to be disagreeing with you.
Well, he will have his opportunity, but our position is very clear. As the Minister of Mines has stated again and again, he says there was no sale. Yet there was a sale. There's a new entity, an equity partner who owns 51% of Mopani. KCM, well, we have made it very clear. The record of Vedanta is deplorable in the last 20 years. There shouldn't have been even consideration. They broke every pledge they pledged in the last 20 years. They never fulfilled any. We are on the same path. They said through a court order that they will invest $250 million in KCM. Vedanta has not done so. Again, the paralysis at KCM worries us. They're relying on imports of concentrates from across the DRC. They're actually even asking, they requested formally to government for waiver. You know, when you import concentrate, you're supposed to pay these import duties. I've even formally requested government to waiver that. There's no actual mining taking place.
So in short, what you're saying,
so-called good news. For example, CDF is a disaster.
And you talked about also the improvements in the health sector.
Yeah, I'll come to that. But on CDF, let me just say,
in summary,
CDF is not decentralization. There's been a decentralization policy to take resources from the center to the periphery. That's why there was a plan to capacitate local authorities. We took directors, we took planners, we took engineers to every district. That's where you are now supposed to give money for them to plan. You give it to CDF, you've paralyzed the decentralization policy. CDF is a small component in the decentralization policy, very small component. So they are going about it the wrong way, and we've criticized that approach. Yes, money should go to the center, but money should go to the center to where the engineers, planners, administrators, even the support fund that government gives local authorities is because you took very qualified personnel. She took them into Lundazi, to Lukulu, and those councils cannot afford to pay those salaries. That's why the support comes from central government to pay those professionals, allow them to work, give them the resources. CDF can be there, but it's a periphery issue.
Okay, all right.
On the health sector, this is where we have the biggest crisis.
Sure.
Because with the health, just like food, you can't cheat people. They walk to a hospital and experience it in broken down equipment, lack of diagnosis equipment and tests, lack of medicine. Cancer Disease Hospital has been dead the last 3 years, and it's a story everywhere. X-rays, you can't obtain them. If you've been to the University Teaching Hospital, now all the diagnoses are being done across the road. People have opened all sorts of diagnosis equipment, so there they will just give you a prescription and you walk across. ZAMSA and Ministry of Health will say, no, supply of drugs are 70% or 80% or 90%. That's not the reality. I've always challenged the media. Me and Mark will make claims, verify them, go there.
Okay. Yeah, Mark, just one answer, because I don't want to, you see my topic.
Yeah, so issues have been raised, so it's important that I respond to them before people who are watching believe. Yes.
Okay, so
I was responding to your issue.
No,
so
in responding, I think there's some misleading information.
All right, so let me give you a minute and a half, because we are discussing with, a different matter altogether.
Yeah, let me start with Mopani. The comrade here will tell you, will not tell the listeners at their time how many shares government had in Mopani when they were leaving office.
We had 100%.
Because government had shares in ZCCMIH, an investment holding. Mopani was owing Glencore over 1.5 billion. They were not owing government. It's not government that was owing Glencore. And therefore, it was not what was owed to Glencore is not classified among the debt that we've been discussing. Documents are there at PACRA. What was found was an equity partner in ZCCMIH. ZCCMIH is floated on the Lusaka Stock Exchange, the shares, on a number of issues that they engage in. So even Alexander can invest. So apart from simply government investing in ZCCMIH, there are other players that invest in ZCCMIH. Now let me say this. How come Mopani, for those of you that are watching, go online. How come Mopani was not part of IDC? Because all those institutions that are owned by government 100% are listed under IDC. So those of you watching, so that you see the propaganda we talk about when you talk about the comrade, you check if Mopani is there. You'll be shocked. It's not there.
So what you're saying is
the point is
he relies on propaganda?
The Mopani is not under IDC. All government institutions that industries are listed under the Industrial Development Corporation, which was established by an act of parliament. So now, people are watching.
Can I make a quick answer?
The next point that I want to raise.
Mark, before you move to the next one.
I will lose my thought.
Hold the thought.
Now just wait a minute. I think, comrade, you are moderating the
Mark,
program.
IDC owned.
So listen, gentlemen, as much as I would love to continue discussing the merits or demerits of the current mining sector, it was just a question of finding out.
Give me a minute.
So yes, please go ahead in conclusion.
So, the next point that I want to raise has to do with Vedanta. You are aware that alternative dispute resolutions, according to the initial agreement that Vedanta had, was supposed to have been done outside the country. They were in court, there was a liquidator. Now, it is a well-known fact that when we had the liquidator, people were retrenched, they lost jobs. Copper production went down. You know that the traditional export for this country for a very long time has been copper. How can you export more copper when the mines have collapsed? Because KCM collapsed when it was liquidated. if we are arguing that it never collapsed, why were people retrenched? Why were we paying creditors now? Hundreds of creditors, in
conclusion,
yes, hundreds of creditors at KCM were being paid by this investor now. You get the point? Then secondly, hundreds of suppliers and creditors were being paid by Mopani. Money was released. Then the next point that I want to bring out, borders on, because when you are talking about privatizing, you only privatize that a parastatal.
Okay, Mark. Okay, Mark. Yes. So
then the other thing that is raising concerning the health sector. Let me say this. It is on record. There was a research that was conducted and published last year. When UPND took over leadership, medical purchase and medical supplies was at 30%. Let me substantiate that. When UPND took over leadership in 2021, our friends allocated about 1.6 billion kwacha towards the health sector. When UPND took over leadership in 2022, we allocated towards the Ministry of Health for medical supplies, medical equipment purchase. Okay, the allocation was over 3.2 billion. Last year, okay, 2023, it came to over 4.
All right, Mark, now, thank you so much. Thank you. Like I said, we are discussing the matter at hand for tomorrow. That's the constitutional court. And all I did was to ask your respective organizations where you're coming from. And I'm glad that it's also for me to also organize another program to look at just the development rate and how the opposition Patriotic Front sees it. But let's get to what we hear. From your, I would like to get individual perspectives, and of course we are sensitive to the matters of contempt as the case will be presided over tomorrow. So let's start with you, Mr. Mwamba. What has been Zambia's historical approach to the constitutional making process, and how has it addressed or failed to address key governance challenges? And this is part of the component that is being addressed tomorrow, that it could be a challenge, it could be an opportunity to address some of the matters that we feel were never allocated in as far as the constitutional making process is concerned. But how do you describe the historical process Zambia has undertaken?
First of all, I think if you got the history of our country, we started with a mining firm interested just in mining exploration and established the regions under mining exploration by...
I'm looking at this with regards governance matters and the constitutional court judgment. And of course, we've driven away from the mining aspect. Now we are talking about the constitutional court.
That's where we're going.
Yeah, all right.
Because we want constitutional development of our country. You trace it from 1890. Sure. Someone is looking at minerals and signs an agreement. By 1924, a company now books out of the country because it has become established to bring what is called BOMA, British Overseas Military, because they were a military organization, BOMA, because now there were civil issues. It was no longer a business approach. And as we evolve, trade unions emerge, the country begins to form. We've never had an opportunity to really write our own constitution. You look at 1964, our leaders go to Lancaster for negotiation. Again, it's a document we are not privy to, we have not formulated it, we have not inputted into it. By 1971, I think there are proper attempts to do a proper constitution. But it's overtaken by events, because Dr. Kaunda and his men want a one-party state. So they use a constitution-making process to impose a one-party state. 17 years later, from 1973 to 1990, you see now there's agitation and winds of change across Africa, where we think that there should be a restoration of democracy and multi-party politics. And that is done. We amend the constitution, we abandon the one-party state. Again, that process is done in a hurry, because the goal and focus is to restore democracy, to restore multi-party democracy. So we changed, like Article 4 at the time of the constitution, and we become a multi-party state. But the entire constitution, the entire laws are mostly colonial or one-party state. So although there are attempts to democratize, we do not. And we have been on that path.
All right.
Mwanakatwe comes in 1994. Again, nothing happens. we come up with the Constitution in 1996. There are political events. Chiluba's government feels threatened that Kaunda is emerging and has returned to politics. Again, it's twisted. You see that the focus becomes on Dr. Kenneth Kaunda, and Dr. Kenneth Kaunda is barred from participating in the 1996 election. So again, the opportunity is lost for our country to make a proper constitution. You see it coming to 2001, Levi Mwanawasa comes in, William Mwamba is appointed. Well, he dies in office, we don't change the constitution. The next we really had another constitutional change was in 2016, because President Michael Sata has died. There's a new president in Edgar Lungu who finds this document that has been on the table from Mwanawasa's times, and he says, can we sign this document and put it away? We are back to discussing constitutional matters. Lucky enough for the 2016 constitution, we created a constitutional court that should help with the development of our constitution, maybe to avoid us going to constitutional making process. But as we've seen, the constitutional court has been a letdown. The UPND complained about it, filed many notices against those judges. We are complaining about the same constitutional court. President Hakainde Hichilema has just fired 3 of those constitutional court judges. We are back to stage 1, both on the issues of the constitution and on the current constitutional court.
All right, Mark, your perspective, our historical approach in the constitutional making process, and it having a futuristic agenda in addressing some of the challenges that country might face in as far as governance delivery is concerned.
So when you ask about our historical perspective,
sure,
basically also asking me, apart from what the comrade has raised, to give an account of where we're coming from. But most importantly, the constitution making process. First of all, as a basis, for those students of law doing legal process, including constitutional law, they do understand that one of the features, attributes of a good legal system is changing laws according to the changing society. It is used as an ideal in law. Changing laws according to the changing society, apart from participation by the society in the making of laws. Now, what has been the challenge from inception? From the time we had the Legislative Council, which we had during the colonial time, which today we refer to as the National Assembly. The problem has been that we have never had a law which gives us a roadmap for amending the constitution, which law should also protect the views of the people when they make submissions, from the time of submitting up to the time of debating and adoption. The challenge that we have had for many years is that we have Article 62, which vests legislative powers in the National Assembly, and no citizen can make laws except those that will have certain statutory instruments under delegated legislation. But under the circumstances, that has been the problem. Now, second to that, we have the Inquiries Act, which we have been using from independence under KK. Though the Inquiries Act does not provide for the constitution making process or direct provisions that it should be used for constitution making process, it just provides for inquiries. When the president would want to inquire anything from members of the public, he can set up a committee. So without that provision, so that is what all presidents have used before. From KK's time, from Chiluba time, Inquiries Act, and as indicated by the comrade, when the Mwanawasa came, he attempted to come up with an act of parliament. Remember the National Constitutional Conference, which also was badly battered. At that time, I think I was monitoring on behalf of Action Aid with Mr. Kabanda and at the Mulungushi Conference Center. We contested because the act was not able to protect the content. There was Mungomba CRC, there's Vunga Commission, and all those. Even when good submissions were made, they were not taken into consideration. So when President Sata came, he did not reinvent the wheel. He used the Mungomba CRC document as a basis and gave the committee that sat terms of reference based on the Mungomba CRC. I can give you an example. Even the Barroseran agreement has been one of the submissions in the Mungomba CRC. which all these people that have been sitting down to look at the constitution do not want to consider.
All right.
Now, we are where we are today. I think we had a document which has fundamental improvements in 2026 because it brought in or it enhanced democracy, number one.
2016.
2016. Number one, 50% plus one. Because democracy is the rule of the majority. So all along, we had a document that only allowed even a minority leader, which attribute does not agree with democracy. So with the inclusion of 50% plus one, it allowed us to have a person at State House who should be elected by the majority, thereby, agreeing with the tenets of democracy. The second thing, we had fundamental improvements like the Constitutional Court that he talked about. The Supreme Court was overwhelmed many years. And if you want to do well in any particular discipline, there should be specialization. So the Constitutional Court is a specialized court to deal with only constitutional disputes. Alongside that, in the constitution making process, comrade, we enhanced it by ensuring that we had it's under contestation, the Industrial Relations Court. Some people are not happy that it is now the division of the High Court. They believe that what we did by establishing the Constitutional Court is the exact opposite of what we did under the Industrial Relations Court. Fine, I agreed. Then the other one, which we are seeing, is also the idea that we now have the fast track court under the economic and financial crimes. Because for all these years, we have been relying on the case law of Vincent versus Chile. You have heard of Judge Chile. In that case, which was a landmark judgment, which we have been relying upon when it comes to rapid adjudication, it has been a position, up to now, of course it is working, that you cannot compel the judge to make a hasty judgment. And other courts still use the same as case law. But on financial crimes and other related issues, there's a fast track court. The same way, we had also a fast track one under these traffic offenses, yes. Okay? Now, let me say this. Where we are going, what has been the problem? Every time a constitution is enacted, it does not go without problems. It's a normal situation. It will have challenges, especially when it comes to statutory interpretation. Now, since we deal with a constitutional republic where the constitution is supreme, in terms of conflict of laws, we are well guided. Every time there's a conflict between the constitution and subsidiary legislation, the constitution takes precedence. So it has been very easy for us to deal with the constitution. But there are gaps, like I mentioned. There is no document that is enacted in the name of the constitution without gaps. And primarily, it could be one of the gaps that have brought us to where we are today. For example, you pass a law which says one who has held office twice does not qualify to be, without really dealing with the matter, does not qualify to be president. Then the same constitution should have defined, number one, because holding office now will start making references from other law dictionary. It should have provided what it means by holding office, by giving an express provision that holding office is equivalent to a term. So what do you do when there is a gap? There are rules of statutory interpretation that are used by the court. You've heard of the fringe rule, the golden rule, the literal rule, among others. So those rules are used. Assuming there is a gap, the court allows itself to look at what the people that drafted the law had intended to achieve in order to arrive at a position that would allow the country to have a defined framework of our constitution. Now, what am I trying to say? Here we are. We are dealing with the same issue, which we are looking forward to putting to the table tomorrow and ensuring that a decision is made which will guide us.
All right.
But here is the danger. The danger has been that, like I've said in one of the articles, when you over debate particular clauses as a result of either miscarriage of justice from the court, you weaken the constitutional provisions in the process, because the court, the power that the court has on the matter we are playing with is that the court can actually knock out some provisions of the constitution to mean something else.
Okay. Mr. Mwamba.
I wanted to use that term deliberately so that people understand. What do I mean? When the court makes a pronouncement on what the constitution means in a particular provision, It becomes as such as law.
Mr. Mwamba, tomorrow is a big day. Let me also take time to ask this political question. It has come to my attention, and I'm glad that you're the Patriotic Front spokesperson, that most of your members will stay away from the proceedings tomorrow. Any information to that before I lay out my next question?
We've got this process fast from the beginning, and we're very clear, because this is a matter that has been settled by the same Constitutional Court 4 times. You are aware that Danny Pule and others took this matter to the Constitutional Court in 2017 to inquire if Edgar Lungu was eligible. You are aware of the former MP for Katuwa, Aubrey Bumpy Kapalasa, who took the same question to the Constitutional Court. You are aware of the case of John Sangwa through Legal Resource Foundation, who are partnered with Sishua. They took the same question before that court. 4 times this question has been settled. 4 times this question has been put to the table. 4 times it has been settled that Edgar Lungu was eligible, and they interpreted. There are various aspects in the interpretation. In the Dan Pule case, they picked one particular clause, said it straddled 2 constitution regimes, the old constitution and the amendments that was done in 2016, and the others used other principles. We don't want to be over technical here, but when a court settles a matter, it settles a matter. So this process is a farce. What happens tomorrow is not closure. It's still open-ended. Whatever they decide, whatever they determine, because they've allowed themselves to handle the same question again and again. So what happens tomorrow is just a beginning of another process. So whatever they will determine, whatever they will say, there will be another petitioner who will say, Constitutional Court, you are now saying Edgar Lungu is not eligible. We disagree with you because of the following reasons. So now hear us on this matter, because that's what they've done in the last 4 times.
So you're staying away. One would interpret it as if you already know the outcome tomorrow.
Yeah, so it's very clear. The former president, who's the first respondent, because remember, there's a young youth, Michelo Chizombe, is a UPND youth member. We have stated that very publicly, and we've demonstrated with pictures, brought this petition against the president and against the Electoral Commission of Zambia and the Attorney General. We didn't participate in the first place. The court had to compel us to participate, if you remember, and gave deadlines that you have to make submissions because you're the one that is sued. So like I said from the beginning, we've protested this process, that why is the court being asked the same question? Even if I were the one petitioned like Edgar Lungu, I would take the same approach. So the former president is in Kawambwa for the by-election that is taking place. If this matter was important, he would be here. He would be in court. And I think the vice president, Given Rubinda, made an announcement. First, he laid the background, like what I've stated. He protested against the dismissal of the 3 constitutional court judges that ruled against President Hakainde Hichilema when he was in opposition, and also voted, one of the constitutional court judges that voted that Edgar Lungu is eligible were fired just last month before this matter really was heard. That's another issue we are protesting against. The manner that the president has dealt with the judiciary. Is the only president I know who has fired 7 judges in a period of 3 years, including the DPP. So we have chosen, I think, encourage members who wish to go, because it's a public process, it's a public place, they can go there. But the leadership of the Patriotic Front, led by Edgar Lungu, who's the first respondent in this matter, will not be available before that court. There were other issues that we had raised. We demanded that 3 of those 7 judges recuse themselves because of their proximity to the president, who is a beneficiary of this process. You are aware about the matter that we had raised against the 3 judges. The judge president, the judge vice president, Honorable Shilimi, and one of the judges, and we laid our complaint and our fears that this outcome will be tainted if they sat on that panel. They proceeded to hear and dismiss our complaint, and they've sat and now have determined what will be tomorrow's judgment. So for those three major reasons, we have decided to stay away from the process. We've encouraged our members to go. It's a public process. They can go and hear. We've encouraged our members to, they can watch on TV or on Facebook.
Are you going to watch?
No. Am I going to?
Watch. Are you going to follow?
I may watch. But you can find me to comment, but it's not of priority for the various three reasons. So before Mark comes in, let me emphasize. Number one, this matter has been settled 4 times.
Sure.
In the Danpule case, the Legal Resource Foundation and Shua case, Bampi Kapalasa case, it has been settled 4 times. Number 2, where the president dismisses 3 judges prior to hearing this matter. Number 3, the request for recusal of 3 judges making a panel of 7. We felt that would not have a fair outcome if they participated in the determination of that matter.
All right.
And the announcement by the Inspector General of Police, who literally has suspended our constitutional right to go to court. He is threatening arrest. He has mobilized hundreds of policemen that are supposed to gather. They have literally outlawed all of us to go to court. So we think that this process is not fair, and I think we have a right to protest, and that's why we are staying
Before
away.
you give your comment, your statement with regards to the IG statement on attendance tomorrow, it's like the party had already decided that you're not going to go. So does it mean that the IG statement is a non-priority matter?
No. The decision to stay away was only made today. In fact, there was a central committee that reviewed all those facts, including the absence of the first respondent, who is the president of the Patriotic Front, President Edgar Lungu's in Kawambwa. Among the factors I've told you, and we came to the inescapable conclusion that we shouldn't participate in a tainted process.
All right. The big word is tainted. Mark.
So let me deal with the very specific issues that the comrade has raised. He talked about the same matter has been presided over. Those of you watching again, I know that most of those cases, judgments have not been, some of them have not been uploaded in Cas Legal, that software, or you may find them online. Among the cases being referred to, ECL has never been responded. You get the point? He has never been responded. It's the first time that he's becoming responded in an eligibility matter. Then let me deal with the first matter. When you deal with the first time that this particular issue of him holding office came up, the Sangwa, the Chapter 1 Foundation. Remember, I was working with the Chapter 1 Foundation that time, and most of the time on the panels on Butane, I was debating with all those issues. I would represent Chapter 1 Foundation. The matter that was begging an answer in that particular judgment, the first time it was brought before the Constitutional Court, from those of us that were aggrieved, was one was held office twice, is not fit to be president. Here is the gap which prompted people to go back, because there's nothing wrong at law. No law has been broken. You can go back. The gap has been, instead of discussing one was held office twice, they went to discuss what constitutes a term.
A full term.
What constitutes a full term? What constitutes a full term is not debatable. The court was correct. After 3 years or 5 years, a term is 5 years. Agreed. But is that the question? No. The question is, one was held office twice. And someone can go back to court. No law broken whatsoever. If a matter, if it's forum shopping, this is how it is created. You take the same matter and say, what constitutes a term? Did he save a term? If you say he never saved a term, the question is, does he qualify on the pretext of one was held office twice? Not whether he saved a term or not a term. Because in the same constitution, without me getting into the nitty-gritty, the ingredients of the matter at hand, if you are going to look at it from the point of view of whether he served for a term, you are answering a question just to deal with a term. And if it was not a term, it does not give you the guarantee, an express provision that since it was not a term, therefore let him proceed. You must answer a question. Did he hold office twice? And the question continues to be asked, that to hold office as president is a matter of Article 792 and also preceding clauses in the Constitution, which would allow you to exercise presidential duties. When during that period, was he exercising presidential duties? Yes. What does it mean to hold a public office? The Constitution provides information in the definition. It should be Article 265. What it means to hold a public office: to be in a position of executing the fundamentals in that office. So now we are where we are because at the same time, this is how you deal with matters that have been presided over by a court of first and final instance. If it's presided over by 3 judges, you can still take it that it preside, if the Constitution allows for more judges to sit at the Constitutional Court, you can still push it back to be heard by 5 judges. If it is heard by 5 judges, then the Constitutional Court has 9 judges. You can push it again to be heard by 9 judges. If the Constitutional Court allows for 13 judges, and then it is heard by 9 judges, you can push a matter to be heard by 13 judges. And what you see there, what you're looking for, is a consent judgment by exhausting the number of judges that sit at the Constitutional Court. Now, it is for that reason that we contested in the Bill 10 the reasoning of wanting the Parliament to decide how many judges should sit at the Constitutional Court, because we were able to link where it was leading us to. The next point I want to bring out, which the comrade has raised, borders on because there's no forum shopping there. When there's forum shopping, the matter is thrown out immediately. But the facts are different. What people are seeking the court to interpret is different. We are not dealing with what constitutes a term. It's an issue of what does it mean to hold office? Tell us. Because when the issue of eligibility was raised in the first matter, the judges unanimously, in fact a number of them said it is odious, will not make a judgment. The court has never presided over that question. The issue of whether, you read the judgment again. I wish I was going to flash it, but tomorrow if I have time I'll flash it.
So
it's odious. The issue of whether ECL qualifies or not is odious and will not consider it. The court never made a ruling on that. Let us not cheat people. So I think John Sangwa.
Yeah. So listen. Let's be on the same.
My lecturer in constitutional law. Yes.
Let's be on the same page. So what you're saying is that the argument other stakeholders like the Patriotic Front are trying to say that this matter has been already heard 4 times.
Yes.
Is non-existent. Is that what you're saying?
It's non-existent. The Constitutional Court itself considered it odious. According to them, it's a non-issue. It's not important, we leave it. So a litigant, because our court system is adversarial, meaning it cannot move itself. It has to be moved by a litigant. Litigants are saying, no. Don't tell us it's a non-issue. Tell us whether he qualified. And that's why we're in court today.
Okay.
The next issue, here's the next issue which was raised, because I didn't come with a pen, so I was just typing. The issue of judges. I remember when Michael Sata came in, some judges just fell off like Judge Msonda. They had to withdraw and they had to resign on their own. The first thing that he did was to say, I'm talking about the mastermind of BF, was to ensure that some particular judges were removed. The lower session of Zambia supported that. On what grounds do you remove a judge? One of them is judicial misconduct. Who should determine judicial misconduct? It's a Judicial Complaints Commission. Who removes the judge from office? The president can't wake up today and remove a judge. He doesn't have such powers. It can only be done on recommendation by the Judicial Complaints Commission, and then a letter is written by the Chief Justice that these judges be removed on the following grounds. Period. That's how the process is. The president does not sit at the Judicial Complaints Commission. Who moves the Judicial Complaints Commission? It is not a court, yes. It is an aggrieved litigant or a citizen who has locus standi. And that's how the procedure is. The president is only given recommendations. The next point I want to raise.
I'll give you that opportunity, yes. Mr. Mwamba, to respond.
The same way the appointment is done, the appointment of a judge is done by the president on recommendation by the Judicial Service Commission, subject to ratification by the National Assembly.
All right.
Then the next point that he has raised, he said they contested the judges on the basis of recusal. Unfortunately, when you are dealing with recusal matters, you raise it as a preliminary matter in court. It is discretionary. It's not a straight jacket. That is why, you remember Judge Chitabo, may he so rest in peace, when the matter of the right to be heard was brought before Judge Chitabo, on the pretext that UPND thought that Judge Chitabo was Sata's lawyer. So we advanced an argument that he recuses himself. He refused. And it is within the powers of the judge. I think we need to debate more on the ingredients of what has brought us before the court, and not being vindictive of crying, no, this has been decided and so on. Let us allow the due process of the law to be concluded.
He also talked about yes, the IGA statement,
yes,
and they feel that it infringes on their rights as citizens.
No, you see, the issue of rights again should be looked at differently. When it comes to going to court, the court has a courtroom. Citizens, members of the public can go there, okay, and attend. Can you get thousands into the court? When the police sense that there could be chaos, it is within their law to make a decision, because the Constitution guarantees the Zambia Police Service, including the Zambia Police Act, gives them the power to maintain law and order. The very fact that you go and attend there will not influence the decision. So the police is saying, okay, government has pushed in a policy because of delegated powers within the confines of the precincts of the court, that instead of you going, because you want to hear, who televise it.
Now, let me ask you this.
Who televise it?
Let me ask you this, Mark. Give me your honest opinion. What do you think about the Zambia police conduct towards political gatherings in this country?
Thank you. The reason, they've been working very well in the first place. And the reason is this.
When did they start working well?
I'm coming. You remember that under the same police, when you are dealing with court matters, there were live ammunitions and people are still moving with bullets in their buttocks. But under the same police, we have had the PF going to court with gatherings. No one will be killed. Okay? So when you say, when did they start working well? It has been the UPND position that no citizen in politics should lose their lives at the hand of the police. And for 3 years, the police have not done that. The Zambia Police Service.
All right.
So now, lastly, on the matter, just to nail it, it is also within their powers as comrades, as citizens, it's their freedom to stay away. If that is a sign of protest, but that obviously, does it bother the judgment? Whether what if it goes in their favor? What are they going to say? Because court matters that are under contestation are not about protests. They are about statutory interpretation. And then the last thing that we should do as politicians is to always think that our position is the one that should go through. Okay?
Mr. Mwamba,
first of all, Alex, on the issue of the police, I'm quite disappointed. They're being cited in a human rights report. We've just the U.S. Human Rights Report for 2023 has just come out. Mark, I don't know if you've had an opportunity to look at it. It was published. It's on the U.S. government website. And one of the perpetrators of human rights abuses is the police. We've demanded that this Inspector General of Police, Grafiel Msamba, be fired or he resigns for various reasons. First of all, like I said, he has a habit of suspending constitutional rights. He doesn't have such powers. He can stop rallies, meetings. He's abused the Public Order Act. He has refused to obey the provisions of the Public Order Act. The U.S. government, tomorrow is Human Rights Day. That's why prior they published that report. And that report is very damning. This police is killing people, extrajudicial killings.
How many have died?
They are cited.
No, my brother, we should be fair to ourselves. This is why I talk about propaganda. Let's tell the viewers.
It's not an Emmanuel Mwamba report. This is a U.S. government report. They give you up to $700 million a year. Their government, Congress, demands that you report. They report as a government on governance and human rights issues. They've published this report. Your viewers can go, your readers can go to the site and publish the report. You should help in circulating and breaking it down. This police is not a police that should exist in democracy. What kind of a police is it that kills its own people, that is conducting torture and human treatment? What kind of a system are we perpetrating that suspends freedom and rights? I have been a victim. I lost my tooth. I was brutalized. I am an example of police brutality.
For you, Mr. Mwamba, I'll ask the same question that I asked.
So let me just finish. He says the president doesn't interfere with the judiciary. He will say the same thing, that the president doesn't interfere with parliament. He will say that the president, exercises his presidential functions by respecting the independence and autonomy of institutions. You know that is a lie. And as many human rights reports have stated, that Zambia is suffering from a shrinking democratic and media space. That government, the police and law enforcement agencies are abusing human rights. They are weaponized. Our democracy has shrunk. Contrary to what you talked about the PF, people were killed, there was no democracy, there were no rallies. The reports themselves speak very damning about the government of President Hakainde Hichilema. They may think they've improved, we've become worse on the human rights indices.
Because that's my question is, so in comparison of the two administrations so far,
this government is worse.
Are you saying that...
you will respond, Mark. So there is a shrinking democratic space. You have a president who's overreaching, who's controlling parliament, who's controlling the electoral commission.
And you have that evidence?
Yes, and who's controlling the police, who's controlling the judiciary. We have put it on record. We are glad that many institutions, local and internationally, now have seen for who President Hakainde Hichilema truly is. There is a dictatorship that is fomenting. There is a dictatorship that is now reigning. For the first time in our country, you can't have bail pending appeal. This was literally guaranteed right. Now if you are jailed, even if there is an appellate process, you will be in jail. Chitotela is in jail, is entitled to bail. Nixon Chilangwa is in bail, is entitled to bail. GBM is in jail, is entitled to bail pending appeal. Bowman Lusambo is in jail, he's entitled to bail pending appeal. When we say this president is controlling these institutions, we are not lying. And we are glad that international reports are affirming what we've been saying. Maybe when we say it, they said it's a PF, or they did worse, they were bad. But here are the reports that are exposing President Hakainde Hichilema. And they are not glorifying him in the manner Marx or the UPND are. They are seeing the country for what it is. That parliament is silent. Look at the number of punishments our MPs have received. Never in the history of our country have MPs been suspended as many as there. Look at the predatory manner of the executive to attempt to steal these seats, the 9 seats, the destruction of the Patriotic Front as an opposition political party. So we are concerned. The world is concerned. The UN is concerned. For the first time we had a UN report, never under Edgar Lungu, but we had a UN report, special rapporteurs of human rights.
All right, okay. Yes. I mean, it's, at least on this platform, you're guaranteed everyone is.
Let me start with, I want to deal with them chronologically. Let me start with democracy.
Sure.
You see, when you go on a TV station, you're making a reference to a report by twisting and cheating the public. People will believe that's what the report is saying. If you look at the report published by the US, even the media advisory, which they released, there is no mention of death in Zambia recorded under Zambia police. Those of you who want to prove me right, go online and read that. Now, you can't be responsible by talking about the country experiencing death. Even when people are watching, they know that no one has died. From their camp, they will not even cite one person that has been killed. Do you get the point?
Can you read the executive You can read the executive.
Let me hold on to that. Let me hold on to that.
Just read the executive of the report. And let me cite for you the number of people that have died.
This is my time. Let me speak.
So we can deal with the report.
Yes.
And my opinion,
I promise, Mr. Mwamba, we'll get back to you. So, Mark, yes, please continue.
If he's going to read what is on his phone, it would be nice that you beam it there for a reason and for viewers to see.
So in short, you're already disputing what is about.
You cannot get a document from him, the way known, then you read it to the viewers.
Download it on your page.
Let me deal with the issues.
Because we are live, it can be online. Just get your... the website is here.
My time is being chosen.
Yes, please, no, go ahead.
I want to let him comrade.
Yes.
Number one, we have not experienced a person being killed by the Zambia Police Service. Maybe as a media, you've seen one. Talking about media space shrinking. And yet it has just improved. There was the Afrobarometer report. From the time of we took over leadership, no media house has been closed. How can the US, this is a dignified nation, go and cheat and say there's shrinking media space? For the first time in a very long time, you have the opposition having close to 80% airspace. They are moving from Hot FM everywhere. You know very well that at that time, even where we are featuring here, it was non-existent, it was closed. Because even my comrade on his page justified the closure of Prime TV. Not a single media house has been closed. Go to journalists. Media houses now are free to feature wherever they want. He can go to the Copper Belt to feature on a number of media houses. What happened is that now, here is the shrinking media space which I want to talk about, which they raised. They came up with a bill which they thought was targeted at the opposition. Now they are drinking on medicine. They enacted the Cyber Security and Cybercrime Act. Many of the crimes that they have today, which are taking place on the cyberspace, I've seen the comrade commenting on people that are held, beyond what is prescribed by law. Fine.
What do you mean when you say fine? Is it fine?
What they are raising. Here's what I'm saying. When you look at those that have been arrested, they say for expressing themselves online. I'm saying for breaking the law online. Because the Cyber Security and Cyber Act law, which they enacted themselves, regulates everything that happens in the cyberspace. Now, when they started drinking on medicine, then they go back and say, HH is taking away our freedom. But police are using the Cyber Security, which to them was meant for the opposition. You may recall, my brother, that
and which in opposition time you described it as a bad law.
Yes, we have not changed our position. And we are getting to the provisions which we said to be bad by engaging different stakeholders. Now, here is what is happening. Many of the offenses that are being committed physically and not online have now moved to social media. That's why almost all countries now are passing cyber laws. Okay? Just recently, Australia last week passed a law which restricts youth under the age of 16 from accessing social media. Now, what am I saying on this freedom? I'm trying to deal with the issue of media freedom shrinking. And the point I'm raising is that when you go to the mainstream media, no media house has been closed. When it comes to suspending, last time we had Prime TV, we had Movie TV, we had Radio Liseri, Curfew Radio, Radio Tanda, and many others closed. Or licenses suspended. The next point, he says the president is overreaching. We have no evidence that he is manipulating parliament. We can only use those words as political statements to satisfy our political ego. Because the National Assembly is presided over by the Speaker of the National Assembly. Unless he's telling us that that's what they were doing. Then when it comes to suspension, it's not the first time that people are being suspended in that manner. We had at their time. How many times were MPs for UPND sent out?
All right.
Now, the other thing that he raised, comrade, the other thing that he raised is that the president is controlling the judiciary. You can't substantiate, my brother. Here is what the law provides. If you believe, my brother, that the president is controlling the judiciary, it means the president is breaking the law.
Yes.
They should have moved an impeachment motion, which they have not done, because the constitution has a cure. Has a cure to everything. Now, because they know they have no issues to talk about, but just discuss 9 issues.
Gentlemen,
Lastly, punishments for MPs. It's not the presidential issue punishment. You have seen on the floor of parliament an MP. We can mention this online. With this one, Munia Zulu, and the other walking, and the other MP pointing a finger at the speaker and speaking like that. They have their own rules that regulate parliament. The president can't get into the parliament because parliament has its own rules. It has the Hansard, it has the standing orders, it has the constitution of Zambia, and other rules that are made by parliament. They are not made by the executive. It has its own way of regulating itself. And those members of parliament, for your record, they have immunity again. Do you get the point? Well, as long as they are within the precincts of. So if punishment has to be meted, it can never be meted by the executive. That belongs to another arm. It can only be meted by the Speaker of the National Assembly by making special reference to the rules that govern the House.
Okay. Yes, we're almost coming to the end of the program. And I'm going to give you at least 2 minutes each for you to close as I ask this question. How do you think the court's decision tomorrow might impact Zambia's broader governance and democratic practices?
So before I answer that, Alex, I would like Zambians to go to this report. It's been published by the US government. And the executive summary, this is what it states. There were significant human rights abuses, arbitrary and lawful killings, including extrajudicial killings. There was torture, cruel and inhuman, degrading treatment and punishment by the government. Then it goes to something very important. They've even cited politically motivated killings. My dear brother was saying no one has died. Well, they've cited 2 cases, one in Chilenje, where the names are there. I can quickly read of the torture that occurred in Chilenje. There's a gentleman called Captain Piri. Captain is not a rank, it's his name. Captain
That one was killed by the police.
In fact, they worry more by state institutions when state institutions kill. And there's another matter that has been cited. You have the report, you can go to it. There is another matter on torture and cruel and inhuman or degrading treatment. Again, then there is what is happening to the political space. Mark bothered to distance the president from all these ills. Zambia is judged as a democracy that should have institutions, independent institutions of government, working to promote democracy. So they are a totality. You judge them as a totality. You asked a very good question.
Sure.
What happens tomorrow? Well, we are boycotting tomorrow's matter. Like we stated from the onset, that this process is tainted. We think that there are a lot of external factors that has desecrated the process, that is undermining the role of the judiciary. We want a respected, independent judiciary. It doesn't matter how and where it goes. By virtue that this judiciary allowed this petition of Chizombe, Michelo Chizombe, means even when they deliver tomorrow another one, for example, we assume that it has gone against Edgar Lungu, there will be a PF cadre or a citizen who will go and petition that court. Reopen yourself, you've misled yourself. Here, Edgar Lungu is eligible. This is a danger we are at. For us, it's another day, and it's another day to be mourned because it's a human rights day. We're supposed to celebrate human rights, not any institution taking away rights of citizens. In fact, civil and political rights were the first United Nations enshrined rights before you even enshrined human rights. So the participation of citizens in political process is so fundamental that it has its own convention, and that's what we are celebrating tomorrow. It's Human Rights Day worldwide, and you have to shine the spotlight on countries like Zambia that are taking away rights of citizens to participate in civil and political processes.
Yeah, winding up. Okay, so here is the difference between the President ECL and President HH. You had ECL who threatened the judiciary directly when the eligibility matter was before the court, that if you dare me, we shall go the Kenyan way. Then you have HH who is not saying anything about the judiciary.
Yes, fired judges.
Can I speak, my brother?
Yes, Mark, please go ahead. You're protected. Please go ahead.
Who is not saying anything about court matters being criticized for their lawyers' mishandling of the matter in court? And it's being called names. We need to introspect, my brother. Look at the difference between the two presidents. One is threatening judges and telling them you go the Kenyan way. The Kenyan way, by the way, is dissolving the judiciary and asking them to apply again. And the comrades were supporting. And you have a president. They're talking about firing. Their own president removed judges from court using the due process of the law, okay, because the constitutional mandate only allows the president to remove a judge from office. So there is no law that has been broken.
Can I speak?
How can a person do such a thing? Start playing.
No, I'm sorry.
But that's part of you. You want to detract me from speaking.
Mark, so, please don't lose focus.
So the point is that you want to question someone's constitutional mandate of being able to exercise the powers. There is no law that the president has broken.
Okay.
It's a constitutional mandate that upon recommendation from the Judicial Complaints Commission that these judges must be removed, the president plays a role. That's a constitutional mandate. If it was not in the constitution, we should have been concerned. But it's in the constitution. The next point I want to raise. Our colleagues are free to stay away. That will not kill the judiciary. The judges will remain and the wheels of justice will continue. Their staying away does not make us lose anything. Zambia remains Zambian, Zambians will remain Zambians. It is within their right to stay away because tomorrow we're celebrating human rights. And then I was also looking at the document that was mentioning of captain and what. It's not in the report from the US. Unlike the way it used to be, where Nsama, who never committed any offense, was killed by the police, where Joseph Kaunda, who never provoked anybody, was killed, where Mapens Chivolo killed, Vespers killed, the situation, we must agree, is different. People, my brother, are moving with bullets in their bodies. Zambia has improved under the same police. People are not being killed the way they were being killed. We have most of these people that he's referring to. Most of the MPs from the opposition, some of them that are before the court are walking and they are flying around. Because most of them have been granted bail. Kampiongo is in court, but he's walking, he's on bail. There are others that have been convicted. And the court can make a decision for those that are flight risk.
All right.
We are already grappling with matters where people are before the court, then they run away from the country. The court can make a decision that based on the trend that has become so rampant, they can deny you. You apply for a constitutional bail, reasons can be advanced. But the point remains, tomorrow our anticipation is that we are waiting for the judges who are trained to deliver the judgment.
Okay, so I've just been given by my director
that judgment can go either way.
All right.
So assuming that here are the consequences. If the judgment goes that ECL qualifies, like I mentioned, then provisions of the constitution are being worked over time on what constitutes a term and how often one can stand. Thirdly, assuming that he is also said to have been ineligible, it remains statutory interpretation. It has no effect on the incumbent. I've seen people writing and saying that you go for elections. Now if you go to the constitution, go to where it provides for how the office of the president falls vacant. There is no matter before the court that can declare the president's office vacant other than the presidential petition. Apart from that one, the other way of removing the president is by way of an impeachment. The other one, incapacity, maybe due to mental disorder or any illness that makes it difficult for the president to undertake their responsibility. When such a thing occurs, you have a running mate.
Okay, so
there is nothing of that nature. So it remains statutory interpretation. So statutory interpretation becomes case law, becomes binding on successive similar situations.
Okay,
that's how it works.
So my director has given me an extra minutes, so that we at least manage to exhaust this debate. Here's some other political arguments. I'll start with you, Mark, that have been formed, especially towards the anticipated day tomorrow. Arguments that the ruling United Party for National Development, UPND, seems to be scared of the influence of the former president. What is your comment?
We should not be discussing abstract things. We can only rely on history. First of all, after Chiluba, there is no president who has lost like ECL. Those who are speaking like that do not know how they lost elections. You get the point? Because, number one, in 2016 alone, PF was already gone. The comrade may not know what I'm talking about. ECL was in State House with about 22,000 votes. He was in State House with only smaller than many of the constituencies in Osaka. Because at least almost all the constituencies in Osaka have maybe more than 22,000 votes. Now when they brought in 50% plus one, we said hallelujah. Because in 2016, remember that there was a presidential petition that was active there, which matter was later on dismissed on the basis of computation of time. You get the point? Now, we had enough evidence, and mind you, I was one of the people that were preparing bundles of evidence in the same matter in 2016. And because I was filing in for the petitioners. For people that may not have known, there was a lot of overwhelming evidence. What sent Mwari Teta into prison was intercepting pre-marked ballot papers, which found themselves at ECZ. That Chavula man who was found in the server room, all those cases were supposed to be part of the bundle of evidence. Manipulating results. Movie TV, you were there. Was closed immediately after elections. ECZ manipulated the statistics on the website after declaring ECL as a winner. Then Movie TV reported. Then they suspended its license and sent police there. So, there's nothing like being scared of an individual and so on. In any case, I don't know which party it belongs to. I'm just shocked that when I came here that we are talking about the comrade even talking about PF, Vice President Rubinda. I thought I was also hearing Mao Samba also posing as PF. So with that kind of disorder, remember that UPND has been in the opposition longer than most of these people that are calling themselves opposition like PF for more than 20 years. PF never stayed in the opposition for a long time. So we have vast experience. Some of the tricks they're trying to use, UPND has used them before.
All right. Mr. Mwamba, some of the tricks that you are using as UPND, as Patriotic Front, or rather, I mean, all your maneuvers are being described as tricks now.
Alex, the reason people are laughing at President Hakainde Hichilema is that he's failing to learn from history. Why would you repeat the mistakes of the PF? Why would you make mistakes that Zambians rejected? Zambians do not want us to go to a totalitarian or a dictatorship. They want freedom. They want us to thrive. Look at the laws that were brought just last week by the UPND in Parliament. The amendment to the Cyber Security and Cyber Crimes Act, Bill number 17 of 2024, and Bill number 30 that was introducing a new law, Cyber Crimes Act. Unheard of in a democracy, this government that purports to promote rights and freedoms brings laws that we're going to take away our freedoms and our rights, that we're going to literally legislate a dictatorship. They continue to make mistakes after mistakes. Let me emphasize on the Inspector General of Police. The President goes to change. He says no one should be detained for more than 48 hours, or they should be presented before court. If you think that you can give them police bond. He goes to Parliament in a national address. He emphasizes. He says when you are arrested at 10, you'll be released at 14. But you have an Inspector General of Police that keeps people up to 16 days, up to 61 days. I was detained for 3 days. Nakachinda 9 days. Thomas Ziambo 16 days. The young two boys from Kalulushi 61 days. If it was not the uproar of the church led by Archbishop Alec Banda going to see those young people in prison. I think they will still be imprisoned 61 days. That is totally unheard of.
I'm getting that the total number of days that those two boys is 52 days.
It's 61 days. They were arrested on October, 3 transported from Kalulushi. They were in the same jail with Brebna Changala when he was detained, with Thomas Ziambo. You can count the days. But the president says you'll be released by 14 hours. You are talking of 52 days. 52 days. What kind of an inspector general of police acts with that impunity, disregarding his commander-in-chief? Who is embarrassing who? Or do we assume the president gives us this nice talk and then pulls the strings from behind? Because now we are left in the speculative realm. How can a president publicly tell the nation that no one will be detained for more than 3 days and citizens are detained up to 61 days? How can he say, like Mark is saying, that the opposition are allowed freedoms? They can organize, they can go to radio stations, they can organize meetings. But the Inspector General of Police has not allowed meetings in the last 3 years, until Citizen First had its first rally in Kitwe and the second rally in Samvia. We tried for 3 years to have a political rally. For 3 years we were denied to hold public meetings. So here is a president who says, I'm promoting rights and freedoms, that I'll allow political and civil participation, that we're a democracy and we are better than the PF, and the worst things are occurring. And it doesn't fire the Inspector General of Police. Look at the scale of corruption that has invaded ministries. And the president speaks very well that he has a zero tolerance towards corruption. The SEC have told you that they are investigating, Mr. President, 5 of your ministers, and the president has not fired any of those. Set them aside, allow for proper investigations to take place. There are reports of PSs that have paid unilaterally huge amounts, you heard in the Public Accounts Committee. Irregular procurement of ambulances under CDF. A PS attempted to pay himself up to $6.5 million in the Public Accounts Committee. It's not rumors, it's not on Emmanuel's page. It's in the Public Accounts Committee on national television. Where is the action? 61 trucks at Zamsa.
Talking of the, as we are on that, because I want to give Mark as well some chance, but I want you to quickly respond, Mr. Mwamba. Talking of the president's intervention in some of the matters of corruption that happened, just today he did announce that government, the Auditor General's report, Auditor General's office has engaged a private firm, that's Pricewaterhouse, a private audit firm, to audit the Ministry of Health. And the president has already given a hint, though he's saying that the final report will be issued in December. This is December, of course, and before the end of December, the final report will be issued. That he's already hinted that he's not happy with the happenings at the ministry, and action will be undertaken. Don't you think these are some of the matters that you're saying that he doesn't act, and here is a system that has already been outplaced?
Just put in context, the facts are opposite. An audit has been done, a preliminary report has been issued. They are waiting for management report, and they'll deliver a final report. There is threats by donors, cooperating partners to stop funding. You heard these matters are in public domain. They're in the Public Accounts Committee. The donors literally fund the Ministry of Health, and when these irregularities, these corrupt activities are exposed, we expect stern action. We have not seen that from the president, other than the threats that he will suspend, he will fire, he threatens them, nothing happens. So that worries us. The scale of corruption, and I would quote my dear brother Fred Membe, who says, if the MMD were stealing, if the Patriotic Front were stealing, they were mere pickpocketers. You have plunderers in this government, because the scale of theft in the mining sector, in the health sector, in the agriculture sector, in the energy sector, the scale of the reports we've never had in this country. $3.1 billion externalized in a period of 9 months, as the FIC report demonstrates. $3.1 billion. To put it in context, This government has been struggling to get $1.3 billion from the IMF for 3 years. $3.1 billion, FIC tells you that these are illicit flows. And there's no single action, not even from the president.
Mark,
that worries us.
Mark,
so let me start with
this image that is being portrayed by Mr. Mwamba, right?
I use a bottom up by starting with the 3-point-something billion. You remember earlier this year the president said, now that we have found where they took the money, we are going for that money. So when we see some of our colleagues talking about that money that is made reference to, sometimes you'd think they're talking about a particular minister. The agitation you've been seeing is that government has mooted a plan for bringing back money that has been externalized by our colleagues who left government through sales of illegal mukula. Some buildings have been built.
This is 2023.
I'll allow you to respond.
No.
Yes, Mark, please go ahead.
I just wanted to put context.
No,
This is the 2024 report.
Mark, just go ahead. Just go ahead. Yes.
If you remember, if you look at, people can have access to the Auditor General's report, okay? They have even gone back to many years of the documents. Because what we have done for these things that you are seeing, it's the same thing that ECL, when ECL complained that money was going missing, what the institution has done, they have simply gone back to the files. Now, this time what happened was, the president early this year said, now that we have engaged our cooperating partners, our friends, and we know where they've taken the money, that money is coming back to Zambia. That's where now you saw the agitation. So you'll be surprised. I was telling people in a particular media house that now, when government brings back that money that is being talked about, you check the people that will be crying, and you check the people that will be caught.
So what you're saying
now, what I'm saying is that
the money that is being mentioned by Mr. Mwamba being externalized, it's not.
It's a money wired during this period. The time the government, law enforcement agencies started pouncing on Ukwabags, some money went through Siavonga in the night on the sea. I hope I'm not disclosing much information for the police, but I'm talking about things that these people. In the night, my brother, some people went and bought helicopters abroad through, should be this a country in Europe. A very senior PF official transfers money, another minister goes and withdraws it and buys a chopper. So now the president announced, it is the way information is, he actually hinted to the country, we have now found where they've taken the money. That money is coming back. He spoke to the FIC report. Remember, the FIC report is an intelligence information. The president receives the reports first, and then he spoke. And known to some people, our colleagues knew that they were doomed. They started playing propaganda. I said, have you seen? Money has been leaving the country. So I told them, wait and see which persons will be clobbered over these issues.
So what we're all agreeing is that
Alex,
yes, the other information.
Let us be very clear.
Yes, the other information.
Let us be very clear.
No, Mr. Mwamba, I'll allow you. Let him finish.
Yeah.
Yes.
The other information that I want to deal with, when you say the amount of corruption that we are witnessing, facts are clear, my brother. A report was published by the Transparency International. Remember, that is not a government institution in Zambia. It's an international institution that conducts research works in different countries. Where Zambia has improved in the fight against corruption by 4 points. What our colleagues did was to start attacking the institution that published it and claiming that this has been brainwashed. The same institution that showed that where we are coming from, we have reached an all-high level of corruption. Zambia then was classified among the 5 most corrupt countries in the world. After we achieved that, IMF published information commending us on the fundamentals that we have achieved in the fight against corruption. How did we do it? This is how we do it. We did it. Evidence is there. Money is being recovered. As at early this year, over 32 billion was announced, Kwacha, was announced of having been recovered. From who? And these guys are not contesting that money. Some of them were handing over okwa bags and the money taken to students. Money is being, so the IMF, World Bank and the European Union are seeing that. Then what did they do in responding to our fight against corruption? The EU resumed financing Zambia's budget. They had withdrawn due to rampant corruption. So what he's saying is the exact opposite of what they are doing. The European Union has resumed financing Zambia's budget effective this year. And 2 months ago, they actually announced part of the money that they have actually given the country. The World Bank did the same. How did we do it? The fast track court has helped us recover money. And the president has been very clear. Even if it's ministers that are found to be corrupt, he will not take time to deal with them. Now, the problem that we are having is where you are saying these people are corrupt. You're not mentioning who and how much. At their time, UPND, the opposition, was able to say that one is accused of 3 billion.
He's citing the Auditor General's report, and he's mentioned permanent secretaries and the amounts involved. You are saying that they are not putting a face to every accusation he has.
Now, the point I'm trying to raise is that when the Auditor General's report comes out, together with the FIC report comes out, what follows afterwards is now the law enforcement agencies that have prosecutorial jurisdiction to come in. That's the law. For example, the Auditor General's report office does not have prosecutorial jurisdiction. That's why, if you recall, for a very long time, some of us have been advocates of empowering the Auditor General's report, that Auditor General's office, so that it begins also prosecuting, but it doesn't have prosecutorial jurisdiction. And the law requires that before you arrest an individual as an officer, you must first investigate. It is the legal process.
Alex,
now,
I don't know if
the next point that I want to also hit.
You will? Just a minute.
I don't know how much time we have.
No. You will. I promise. I'll give you that chance.
I'm only reacting to what has been raised.
Mark, yes, conclude now.
Yes. I'm only reacting to what has been raised. The procedure, the position of the law is that before an arrest is effected, there should be an investigation. Whether there is an Auditor General's report or there is a FIC report. Because the FIC individuals or intelligence reports are not admissible in court. That's the reason.
Okay, Mark, thank you.
So the last thing that he raised, remember the issues that have been raised. He talked about the Cyber Act. He said it is unthinkable hearing such a thing in a democracy. For people that have not been following, they are the ones who introduced the Cyber Security and Cybercrime Act. It's not the UPND. Right? What UPND is doing, my brother, is only amending. And what are the circumstances? People have been using pseudo pages to defame others, using certain domains which cannot be tracked in Zambia to defame others, and the world is moving. We are saying, if you are alleging that this is what Mark is doing, go to law enforcement agencies and report. Don't go and cook stories and go online. All countries in the world are putting in place. The USA.
I wish he can give State House that advert who runs Causeway and defames President Lungu every day. Let me take the. I don't know how long I have.
Let me conclude. Let me conclude by saying. I don't know if there is a citizen who knows that State House runs Causeway.
We do. And the church have even spoken about it. And everyone has spoken about it. So it's a well-kept secret.
Can I explain first? His propaganda on the page has always been that Causeway is run by State House. They were in government. They never had evidence to that. If Causeway was not born under UPND, why didn't they arrest the perpetrators? If he's saying we do, you think they could have been spared them?
So,
my concluding remarks stands. President has never wavered on his commitment to ensuring that there is law and order in the country.
Okay. Yes.
And remains committed to that.
Mr. Mwamba?
Yeah, I just wanted to put a point across on the issue of corruption. Scholar and board member of the ACC, Dr. Obrien Kaba, resigned on account that the extent of corruption under President Hakainde Hichilema's government was terrible. He did a very detailed letter to that effect. Musa Mwenye, who was board chair, spoke about it. The director at the Anti-Corruption Commission resigned. These are momentous issues. What was their singular complaint, especially Musa Mwenye and Dr. Obrien Kaba, according to their public remarks, was that this government is not dealing with the current corruption. They are dealing with the manner he's talking about. Ukwa bags, they bought this. Look, corruption is corruption. It doesn't matter the age or time. Corruption must be dealt with. In fact, what governments do is to stop the current corruption, because the money is available. You can secure the treasury. You can secure the vault. You don't have to wait for the next 5 years when they've left office to deal with corruption. That's what they are doing. And Mark, let me inform you, I'm not corrupt. I've never hidden money anywhere. And that's why I speak as boldly as I speak. I've been in government for 20 years. There's no single audit that has cited me. So don't put a brush on everyone. Some of us are very clean, and we demand the same.
So I don't want to talk about matters.
I demanded for a clean government, even under my own government. Alex, you saw articles I wrote. One time I wrote about the corruption under ZESCO, which I handled in South Africa, under my government, and I was ambassador in South Africa. I have been resolute. I will not spare President Hakainde Hichilema if he's engaged in corruption or his government is engaged in corruption, because Edgar Lungu's government was involved in corruption. Therefore, we shouldn't speak about President Hakainde's corruption. No, that would be folly. Would be betraying our own country. Corruption remains corruption. Whether it is done by Edgar Lungu or it's done by Hakainde Hichilema, it should be fought with the same spirit. This government doesn't fight the current corruption. The ACC have named numbers of ministers that are under investigations. The president has not moved an inch to have those suspended. He is fostering and allowing corruption under his own government. If he was as serious as he talks about the past corruption, he would have dealt with his own corruption.
All right, gentlemen, I should say thank you. And it's always refreshing.
I'm also winding up. That you are innocent until proven guilty. Because we paint a picture. We paint a picture.
If Mark responds to me, I would want
Mark
to respond.
Going back and forth.
Yes, so the point is,
I negotiated for 30 minutes.
The O'Brien is talking about.
I promise.
The O'Brien has been sued. I'm sure you know that.
You, as long as on your availability towards the end of this year, in 3 weeks' time, let's sit down and now dissect.
We can deal with many other issues.
Yes, because
from there.
Yes,
the eligibility issue. I think we have put the eligibility issues into perspective.
All right.
No, Alex, my advice, when you invite me next time, invite me with a substantive order. Mark says he's a consultant, and I've trouble with that, because a consultant doesn't own any process. He's a mere consultant. So get me someone I can hold accountable.
I'm sure.
Get me someone from State House.
I'm sure now. Those are the matters we can discuss.
My advice, let them give you a position.
But that's
how can a consultant discuss with a politician? He's a consultant.
What law has been broken?
A consultant's law.
No.
He is not supposed to speak. He is supposed to advise the substantive
allow me, Mr. Mwamba, allow me
my advice next time.
Allow me.
Just a minute, my advice. If you want me to come to this forum, allow the UPNG to give me a position, or get me a substantive order. Because when you invite a consultants merely consult.
No,
their role is advisory. I want someone I can hold accountable to.
Allow me to retain the power. Allow me to retain the power of inviting individuals. Next time, I mean, you sit with the football.
I'll bring a consultant. I also second a consultant to come and answer a consultant.
They were still saying to me, because I should have been allowed to have to say other positions.
He asked me earlier to say you are sitting with a patriotic front here, and the first thing he said, which PF? So maybe you all have issues, but
that is.
No, I can speak in my own right. But my position on consultancy remains valid.
No, it is not.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for having been part of the discussion this evening for a special day tomorrow, as we helped us unpack the legal, constitutional, and political dimensions on this case. So we're joined by Mark Simuwe.